Hey everyone, how are you tonight? Sunday, October 6th. I'm Elena Barbera. Welcome to the Based Mother Show. Tonight, I want to get into this dock worker union thing because we really do have a huge problem. Or I think we do. I'm no expert on unions. As you know, I'm no expert on the economy. I have this kind of, more political and, I'm working on getting porn taken out of schools. So the economy specifically isn't my area of expertise, but I know enough to know when I'm having it stuck to me. So last week, we remember the dock, all the news was going around, the dock workers union, they're going to be striking on Tuesday, starting Monday at midnight if they don't reach an agreement on their contract. So they didn't reach an agreement on their contract. But the weekend prior, we had Hurricane Helene, and literally hell was breaking loose for the people in the wake of that hurricane. And people have lost everything, all of their homes, their cars, their medical supplies, any chance at rebuilding. Some people are just completely devastated. So that happens over the weekend. And then you've got this bully of a union boss saying, yeah, up yours, we're striking because my guys deserve more money. And the whole country looked at the union boss and the unions and was like, excuse me, but we have a major catastrophe here. We need all the supplies that we can get, because most of our imports are oil, electrical supplies, and largely medicine and medical supplies for hospitals. So he must have had some kind of pressure put on him, because he was like, okay, we're not striking. But then he used his own force and he came to a deal to have a massive pay hike increase. So here's what he had to say, though, before the strike. And this was going around while people were drowning in the Carolinas and Tennessee.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port, a lockdown. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now, because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the company's money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
All right, so this guy named Harold Leggett from the International Longshoremen's Association, he's obviously a little power hungry. I understand you want to represent your men and your women, probably mostly men. I understand that the American people probably need to have a better respect for the work that they do, because they are an essential linchpin for our economy and getting everything that we need off of these ships onto trains and trucks so they can be distributed around the country. Yeah, I get you, Harold. You think you're important, but to hell with you threatening the entire U.S. economy, especially in the middle of one catastrophe after another. This guy has done more damage to unions with that one clip than anything that I have ever. I mean, and not to say I've been paying close attention, because I haven't, but I've been paying enough attention to say that this was the most damaging clip for union support I have ever seen. I've kind of been wishy-washy with unions. I get some of their points. I support them to a point, but then I see them do things like this. somebody like this, he can go to hell. All unions can go to hell. Look at what the teachers unions are doing constantly. They're political machines. They bully their teachers into indoctrinating children. They're constantly asking for more money, and they're constantly failing American children. We're at the worst educational state we have ever been in, thanks to the teachers unions and their bullies. So you know what? It's not working anymore. And people will be like, you wouldn't have a weekend off without a union. You know what? If all the unions went away, we would still have weekends off. We still now have laws in place, labor laws, that make sure that we're not all being overworked and treated like garbage. So yeah, take Harold, first of all. So, okay, let me, I'm getting mad again. Let me back up. The unions threaten the hurricane happened. Unions threaten the strike. Hurricane starts. They actually go on strike for, I think it only lasted a couple of days. During that time, they got all the pressure, and then then an announcement was made. Okay, we're going to come back to work, but we're going to renegotiate on January 25th. So what that did was that just took all the pressure off of Kamala Harris's campaign, because she really did not need this crippling effect on the economy that this guy was threatening, which he's right. I mean, it would put us in living hell and create so many problems, not only for our supply chains. I mean, the truckers would be out of work. It would just have ripple effects that we can't even imagine. Our hospitals wouldn't be supplied. So they put it off till January 25th. I don't know who talked him into that, but probably, got a lot of pressure from somewhere, or a nice little personal payoff from somewhere. Because I don't trust somebody that acts like that at all. Your integrity shot. Don't care, Harold. You're going to have to work really hard to gain the trust of the American public again. But then a couple days later, they came and they said that they did reach an agreement on salary, on pay. So they came to that they were going to come to immediately. And then they had other points that they're going to put off until January. So what this bully did was negotiated a 62% raise for dock workers. Now, God bless you guys. It's hard work, especially in the winter, the summer, the heat, the cold. I mean, this is like roofing, like these are hard jobs out in the elements and important jobs. But a 62% increase. Did you suddenly learn how to do brain surgery on your lunch break? What are you kidding me? So it's going to be over the course of 6 years. What is this? Now, this is where, I don't have a really great mathematical mind, but I know enough to know that this is going to massively increase the cost of doing business, that everything that comes through those dock workers is now going to cost more on the other end. And it's going to be paid for by us. I'm not saying you shouldn't get a raise. 62%. We're talking about going from oh God, where did I put it? I don't know. I can't even find my own notes. Whatever it is, 62%. If you're making $100,000 today, you'll make $162,000 in 6 years with no new skills, no new job requirements. Give me a break. So that's all going to come down on us. It's going to drive up costs of literally everything. Like he said, your cars, your building materials, your oil, your medical supplies. We're going to be paying so much more for it. I mean, that's just based. I don't have to be any sort of genius to know that. I grew up in a small business. Oh, I sound like Kamala Harris. I grew up in a middle-class family. No, I'm not doing that. But I did. I grew up my parents had a small business. We were always around the small business. And if their workers came and demanded a 62% increase, well, what would they do? They would have to increase their prices. And then some of the customers would bounce, or sales would drop. It would hurt the business. And then eventually some of those workers would have to lose their jobs because there would be less business. I mean, that's the idea. I want them all to lose their jobs anyway, not because I'm evil, because I want us to be producing in America. I'd rather see the dock workers find new jobs in industries producing in America. Why on earth are all of our 90% of our medicine is produced in China? Is a national security risk, if you ask me. Why do we have to be nice with somebody that's kind of an adversary? And even if they're not an adversary, it's medicine, our basics. It's as basic as food. We should be producing it ourselves. So this January, so now they're going to get this big fat increase. And then in January, they're going to stick it to us again because they're going to end up striking again. So now they're going to strike in January and they're going to be getting paid a big fat paycheck to do it. So the biggest sticking point that I'm reading about for January that they're negotiating is, oddly enough, so they can't lose their jobs, so that they cannot put in any more automation into the system. They want to keep manpower as a central part of the system. And frankly, I'm all for it. I'm all for that. I am for that. I realize that automating some things would lower costs, but I also think that we have to have human beings functioning in society and getting up every day and going to work and producing for their families and bringing home money so that we don't just become dependent on the government when there are no jobs because everything's done by robots. So I'm cool with that. But you're still going to lose jobs. If the influx, if people stop buying because things have gotten too expensive and the influx and the demand goes down, you're still going to lose jobs, even if it's not to automation, because there's just going to be less stuff to get off the ships. I don't know. Is there anybody out there who really understands this that can, help me understand? In the comments, put it in there. I'd love to have that conversation. I want to know more of what's going on out in the world in a way that is a little bit more sophisticated than my current understanding. I do know that I'm worried about it. And I think part of the reason that the worst of it was postponed, like the real stoppage was postponed. Well, first of all, like I said, optics. They're, really looking like fools among this Hurricane Helene thing. But also, I think that they just want to put it off on the next presidential administration. So if Trump wins on November 5th and he's inaugurated on January 20th, and this new strike begins on January 25th, if they haven't finalized the negotiations on the automation thing, hell will break loose in the country. We won't have supplies. You think the toilet paper run of 2020 was bad? Just you wait and see when all the ports close down, and they will wreak havoc on Trump's first presidency in its first week, which is probably what a lot of people want, because they're going to have to come up with something. His first presidency, his first term, they brought out COVID to try to destroy his presidency, and they absolutely did derail it. I mean, there were so many things that he was cranking, he was moving, he was going to accomplish all the things he promised, and then all of a sudden, you have this massive catastrophe, or what was paraded in front of us as a catastrophe anyway. Debatable, huh? He had to deal with it. So here we have to come up with another catastrophe. Could this be it? Could this be the catastrophe that's going to derail his second term? We're going to find out. Something tells me if Kamala gets in that it's not going to happen, because they're going to do everything they can to try to make her sailing a little bit more smooth. Anyway, speaking of smooth sailing, I'm not getting on a boat. I don't really know why I said that. But unsmooth sailing, for those of you on the waters, I am in Florida, and I've been hurricane prepping, putting shutters on the house, and all loaded up with non-perishable foods and water and plenty of snacks and batteries and all the things. So I'm going to go, and I'm going to go get some sandbags. That's my next job. Sandbags. Wish I had a dock worker around to toss around those sandbags for me. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming by. I really want to know what you think about this stock strike. I really want to know what you think of how it's going to affect prices and how it's going to affect us in January when they strike again and they really come hard at us. Thank you for coming today. God bless you. God bless America. Have a good night.